have energy. I don't have enough energy. I can't do that yet.
Welcome back to episode 8 of Bango in Miss of Pandaria. We're starting off here, pulling up something that I did before, is I put a bunch of stuff in the auction house, and surprise, surprise, on a server of fewer than 200 people, the Horde and Alliance, it did not sell. So I'm going to go ahead and just vendor off my embossed leather gloves. No big deal, but it's all good. I managed to get it in the bag, and then I'm sitting at like almost 6 gold here, so I'm feeling good about my mount. You know, to buy that. One of the things about the Barrens that I do remember were the Centaurs and how much of a pain they were. So I'm working through, and I know these guys are green for me right now, but just working through these old Centaur quests. They were way different back in OG WoW, and I think that they've become a lot easier. You know, I was thinking about how original WoW content, while it was way more casual friendly than a game like EverQuest, it still required groups, and it still required like a good amount of teaming up and finding people that could help you work through different quests. And I think once you got into the Barrens and worked through some of the Crossroad quests, I think that is definitely a space where you started to realize that. Not to say that I'm upset that I could easily solo through all of this Centaur nonsense, but it certainly made me think like, oh, or remember rather, not made me think, but really just remember of how difficult some of that early stuff was. Especially that clip in the very beginning of this video. You had to just slaughter Centaurs for what seemed like hours just to get this. I can't remember his name. Kodak, maybe, to spawn. You know, now it's totally different. I rolled up on this person in the Kodobane, right? Sorry, he's the first one of these Crossroad guys, and then you have to like get the lock for him. So he's the first one that he was an elite, I believe, back in original WoW. And then there's like 2 other named ones that you have to fight, Varog the Dervish, and then I think one more. You know, so just thinking through those characters and thinking through those NPCs and thinking through playing that different kind of world. Casual now, but it was casual back in the day compared to what was being played in the MMO world, which was EverQuest and Ultima. Here we have a quest where I have to get the fungal spores, and I don't continue it right away. I do this quest where you have to kill. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce this white lion's name, but I one-shotted it. That was, again, another, you know, group quest or a quest where you had to have a buddy or were hoping that somebody was there to help you kill that white lion. So, you know, thinking back to, I guess my last couple of videos have kind of been really just like nostalgic commentary, essay videos on what it's like to play WoW. And just as I look back, as I watch this gameplay footage and I look back and think about how the game has changed or whatever, this is so much more player friendly than a game like EverQuest ever was. But it still gave you those required kind of grouping moments, which is really interesting. EverQuest was very much like, unless you're like 1 or 2 classes, you can't solo. You got to find a group. World of Warcraft was, you can solo most of this content. And then there will be spots of really challenging NPCs or quests that you're not going to be able to do alone. And I'm not talking dungeons or instances. I'm talking just out here in the wild, right? So here's the second named Centaur that I take on, and I believe this is like newer, added, or different because this interaction was different. But that's one of the things that's really interesting about like revisiting and replaying these games is I realize how player friendly they are, and they have become immensely player friendly. I'll log on to my level 90 rogue, and if I have a quest or something, or at least with Midnight when I was leveling up, if there are elite enemies, I can pop my cooldowns and I can beat them. That is not how OG WoW was. And I haven't really faced an elite NPC yet or an elite mob in the overworld yet as I'm viewing this at level 17. But I would believe and strongly think that they would pose a challenge. I couldn't solo them. Right, so here's the last Centaur that you have to do, and this quest is totally different than I want to remember. I believe this is Varag the Dervish comes and he's all mad. Yeah, but before, I believe Varag was the Centaur that it was a really cool quest. You had to just keep killing Centaurs until he got so angry at you for killing all of his friends and his family that he came out and fought you. And I think he was elite, or at least he was challenging. Now it's a little bit different. It's a little strange. You kill his wife and then he comes to avenge her death, which, they're both it's just like killing Centaurs in this quest. I'm not really sure if one's better or worse. So you have that, you work through those Centaur quests, and I feel like I'm kind of approaching the end here. I'm kind of cleaning up all of these different spore locations, and I have all of this stuff to do here at the bottom with the wildlife and the raptors and working through there. And I was really trying to hold off on... Oh, that's right. Now that I'm seeing this, I was like, did this replay twice? I killed her twice because I thought she was named. I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to take her out, see what happens. And then Varag summoned, so I had to do it again. Now this is me doing it once I actually have the quest. There we go. Now I have his head, and I have to bring it back. So that was interesting. That was a process that I worked through. So I gave you both of those clips, and here we have the Druid quest where I have to go to the top of the hill. If you watch the non-commentated version, I think you have the eagle, and it anticipates you to unsummon it and then resummon it when you get to the top, because I get to the top here and I unsummon it and I wait around for what seems like forever. I don't think it's forever. I think it's just a couple minutes, but it seems like 15 minutes. I'm thinking this quest is bugged, and then I go back and resummon the eagle, and surprise, surprise, everything happens. So I get this quest. I finish this moderately unique quest, which I thought was kind of cool. It's always cool when you start to get introduced in the early game to the other races that exist in the Horde. And I haven't seen any undead yet, aside from that one apothecary. But now as you're in the Barrens, which is, the space between Mulgore and Durotar, where you have the Orc and Troll, starting areas, and then you have the Tauren starting area. It's a cool way to kind of bridge them together and be like, hey, this is our shared space. Really know, it'd be an interesting thought to think about, where is the space where the undead kind of meet up and share the space with the rest of the Horde, because they're on Eastern Kingdoms. You have to take a Zeppelin to get there. So I guess there's not really that space. I guess when you start to see the undead in the different spaces in Orgrimmar or in Durotar, like the apothecary, you just kind of go, oh, that's cool. Like, there's that other race that is a little bit different than us, right? Now I'm thinking, hence as I said earlier, the thought-provoking essay of just like, what is WoW? Now we have, the trolls, the orcs, and the druids, and they're very much earthly, kind of live off the land, being one with their environment kind of races. And then you have the Forsaken, the undead that are just forgotten. And they're trying to find a place. Obviously, the Alliance wants nothing to do with them. I don't know lore well enough as to how that came into be, but where's the space? Where's the space for the Horde? I don't know, conglomerate to get together and be as one. You have it with the 3 Kalimdor races, but you don't quite have it with the undead. So we kind of miss out on that. I'd like to think about that and see where that space might be as we, dive into this playthrough. Yeah, so I finished up the Raptor quest, which was cool. The Raptor quest, I remember being a little bit more challenging, but it was good. You get it's a cool quest. I like a quest that's more than just like kill these things. I like a quest that's like, hey, you have to do these things, get these drops, and then you have to apply them in some capacity. So that's what the Raptor quest is. You get the feathers, you put them on the nests, and then it's a little bit more than just give me 30 deaths, kill 15 things. So I go back to the Oasis, I kill the Snapjaw turtles, and something that I was remembering, I think I've mentioned this in another video, is that the Hearthstone cooldown is 60 minutes. So that's a different kind of beast than I recall, so I'm trying to use it very sparingly. I only really play for, somewhere between an hour and 2, usually closer to an hour. So I'm not using my Hearthstone more than once or twice. This is me coming back to the Barrens because I do just a ton of logistical, junk vending stuff, level up all my leatherworking and do all those kinds of things. And make my way back. I'm feeling pretty good. Level 18. I'm 2 away. My next video here, I'm going to level up a little bit more, get my mount, and feel like I've got like the world ahead of me. So I think I'm just about to finish up the Crossroads. So thank you for joining me, and I will see you next time.